everybody, Charles from HummleMechanic.com, and I'm with two of my good buddies here today. We got Rusty from BenchRacingGarage.com and Kevin. Just kidding. This is Kevin. He's a good friend of both of ours. We've both known him years and years and years. Incredible automotive knowledge, great guy.
A little bit.
Nice,
all around good guy.
All around good guy. Nice jacket that he's wearing today. Anyway, the three of us were sitting around just kind of BS and talking about other stuff, and we kind of decided it would be really fun to sit down on camera and really just kind of do what we do all the time when we're together.
Basically let them hear what we were doing anyway.
Right. So we're going to share some good automotive stories for you guys today. And like I said, we've all been around in the automotive industry a while. I think Rusty trumps Kevin and I by about 40 years.
Almost 3 weeks.
Speaks to his age.
So I'm actually going to get the ball rolling a little bit. And this is a story that I've shared on Facebook before. And it's probably my most expensive to date, and hopefully from now on, mistake at work. And that was when I was working on the general manager's Bentley Coupe, I think. I don't know the exact model of it or whatever.
It's an expensive car.
Continental?
Yeah, it's
GT.
It is a two-door twin turbo W12 Phaeton essentially. Yeah. And the high mount brake light was out, so I taped all around the window, and I'm being real careful with trim tools, and I'm working the brake light out. It looks like it just pops right up, and I see a piece of the brake light break off, so I'm like, oh, no big deal. So I'm wiping it out of the track, and I'm like, man, that looks like glass. I peel the tape back, and there it is, a chunk of the back window just busted. It's a dual layer glass with plastic, basically a filament, so it didn't shatter, but there's a crack all down the back window.
Yeah. Well, the good news is glass isn't very expensive.
No, this was only somewhere in the $2,400 range for the back window. So, the good side of that, though, it was really easy to put that high mount brake light in when there was no windshield out.
Let's just clear the rest of this out of the way.
Yeah, it was, just get this out of here. I can snap the light out. And luckily, in my defense, which is a very weak one, the glass had been in and out before, so the brake light was actually glued to the glass.
That makes it all better.
Yeah, so
that makes it all better because somebody else had it out before.
It was everyone else's fault but mine.
Things don't usually go wrong in shops, though.
No.
As far as everybody else is concerned, I'm sure, it goes like it's supposed to.
Yeah,
every once in a while, things get a little squirrely. I used to work at a shop that the shop was large and it was relatively long, but the advisors were sitting in this shop. Basically, at the end of this wall, we were in a line, and then there were 16 bays in the shop. So where you're trying to talk on the phone, all you hear is whoop, 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 whoop. And then when they know you're on
bleep bleep bleep,
when they know you're on the phone,
that's when you break the air hammers out.
Oh my God! Anybody got a brake job? Everybody knew about it.
Yep.
But one day I was on the phone with a customer.
This was when you were a service advisor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is 20 some odd years ago. But I'm on the phone with a customer, and I think I can't hear out of this ear now because this is the ear I use, and it had a volume on the phone, which pretty much stayed pegged all the time. Anyway, I start hearing, whoa, the whole shop screaming. And I look back, and I'm looking across, there's a row of hoods, here, and there's a row of hoods down this side of the shop. And there was one thing that was standing out, and it was the Volvo, probably on its front bumper, sticking up at an angle like this. The tail lights were 13 feet in the air. Where the guy had thought he had set the lift, but he had set the rear arms. Didn't set the front arms.
Oh, no.
And he walked, and he hit, it was the old hydraulic thing, so he just hit the lever forward, and he's doodling around on his toolbox. And when he spun around, and he was looking at the hood of a car, and it was standing, he caught it just in time before it started coming over. We're thinking, everything's going to fall apart here. It's going to flip over on him. People are scattering. He stops and lets it down, and it just went right back down normal. Nothing happened. But let me tell you, when you look down the shop and you see a car standing on its nose, things pucker.
That's scary. So, I've always said whenever there's extreme noise or extreme quiet is the time to panic in a shop.
Run.
Did he buy a lottery ticket that night?
I don't know, but I guarantee he had to change his pants.
Did it do much damage to the car?
No, never even had. Okay, we told the customer, as far as you know. We never had to tell the customer.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nothing happened. Didn't even scuff the bumper. Now, that was back in the days when the front bumper, if you remember the old Volvo 240s, they had steel front bumpers.
Yep.
Well, it just rode up on that and then wrote it back down.
Wow.
But
Take
I'm
it to
telling you,
detail and
that
call
is-
it a day.
That is an uncomfortable feeling to look back and see something standing on. It's like, you know that moment where your brain tells you something in this photograph is really awry, and then you figure out what it is.
Find
Oh
what's
my
wrong
God.
with the picture.
Right.
Well, I guess leading into that, what's wrong with the picture? Little lesson in don't start a car without looking at it. I had a car in the shop at one point in time, and the trunk was open. And you would think, of course, he's just got the trunk open. I can move this car if I need to.
Right.
Well, I got in it, I started it, and part of that thing, extreme quiet or extreme noise, I
Right.
heard a bunch of people start yelling.
Yeah.
And I looked in the rearview mirror and found flames coming out of the trunk. So when a vehicle has two batteries, one for the convenience system, one for the starting system, if you send starting voltage through a jumper wire when you're doing a capacitive discharge, turns out it sets the trunk on fire.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Talk about letting the smoke out of that one, huh?
We
Yeah.
let the smoke out.
Were
I
you
don't
ever-
think it ever went back in.
You weren't able to get it back in?
Not one time.
Oh man, that
I just picture you running around the shop trying to capture all the smoke.
Oh yeah, shove it back in there. The tip of
here's
the
your
day,
jumper wire.
Yeah, look in the trunk before you start the car.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, man.
Yeah. Well, I guess when you work on a car line, I mean, 99.5% of cars have the batteries under the hood, so
Right.
your brain
Yeah.
doesn't process that it could be in the trunk. There could be multiple. Somebody didn't disconnect the other one, so there might be someone else to
That's
blame
the
on that
thing
one
where
as
when
well.
you start to get comfortable, when you start to realize you know what you're doing, that's when you're going to get screwed. That's
Yeah.
when you're going to do something wrong because something changed.
Sure.
I knew how to fix the car, but not the fire coming out of the trunk.
Right. There was
Did you have to get a fire extinguisher after that?
I
just blow-
I panicked to the point where I don't remember what
Really?
happened after that. Yeah.
we had I had a scenario one time where the shop foreman, I was a lead advisor at a place, the shop foreman and the service manager, we all worked together. We were all quite a team, and we all took a job at a competitor fairly far away, not like right down the street. We all left at the same time. So we go to this new shop. And when we get there, the new shop had a reputation for being pretty broken. So we walked in there and we were feeling pretty good. We're going to fix this place. And ultimately we actually did.
I'm picturing a scene like the three of you walking in, chests all puffed
Oh,
up, like,
yeah.
like Anchorman or something like
You got this.
ready to battle.
Yeah, I was Clint Eastwood. But so we walk in, and we'd been there several days, and we had already seen, and there were really some stupid things going on in the shop, and it was to be honest with you, it made us look brilliant because we were able to fix some things pretty easy. So anyway, it starts raining, and again, we're advisors sitting here with a long shop here, and we start noticing. It's kind of how out of my peripheral vision, start seeing people kind of scurry around. They weren't running, but they started getting faster, and I'm like, so it's raining, doesn't matter. Well, about 10 minutes into it, the lot guy who'd been there for like 90 years runs to the service manager and goes, "Is there anything you want to save in your office?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "No, just, what are you talking about?" He goes, "Is there anything on the floor you need to get off the floor now?" So he runs into his office. I'm still sitting at the service advisor desk trying to book repair orders and stuff. The shop foreman runs to the back. Well, about 30 seconds after everybody kind of scatters away from the service advisor desk, the wall to the right of me, which was a concrete wall with lots of electrical switches and stuff on it, it looks like Niagara Falls because something let go, and I'm talking about a wall of water coming down inside the shop
Wow.
about that thick, and it's hitting the electrical boxes and water's going everywhere. Shop
Sounds
foreman's
safe.
name was Shop foreman's name was John. I'm like, "John!" He goes, "Wait a minute." I'm like, "No, John, come here." He goes, "Wait a minute, I got a water leak." And I can't tell you what I said next, but he came running up.
Bleep.
Yeah. And there were leaks all over the place. And we go into the service manager's office and just 4 inches of water on the floor.
Oh,
This place
man.
was this. Next thing we did was we got the roof relined.
Yeah.
But my gosh, that was, I'm telling you. So anyway, evidently what was happening is the roof on this building was like a rubber bladder. It was like a swimming pool, but the edges weren't supported. So it would build up water, and the thing would go bloop, and all of a sudden you'd get Niagara
Wow.
Falls inside the shop. So we had like 9 leaks that day, and when I went into the service manager's office, his office was fairly nice, but it was about that deep in water. So anyway, it was an uncomfortable time, especially when I was expecting sparks to fly at any point when I
Yeah.
saw the water flying off the the electrical boxes.
No permanent damage. That
No
you know?
permanent damage. I had to
Or
go to the
cared
bathroom a
about?
lot.
Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah, had it right after that.
Well, that brings up a kind of funny story that I have personal experience with being uncomfortable, leaks,
Right.
possible personal damage I don't think I'll ever get back. Started at a new dealership, and it was my first week there, and I had headed into the bathroom, working all morning.
Is this G-rated?
It's definitely G-rated,
okay.
yes.
Because sometimes bathroom stories tend to.
No,
meander.
Body humor.
This is one of
meander.
the ones that was halfway okay.
Okay.
So I have a small sweet tea addiction. I drink a lot of tea, and with drinking any tea, water, you have to go to the bathroom. So got into the bathroom, and I noticed there were 2 stalls to the left, and then there was a urinal to the right. Circular, it had a little thing that you flush the water in, so
Circular.
yeah,
You face each other?
it was kind of weird. So
I see where your story's going.
It's a real chummy bathroom.
it's going pretty good. So working really hard, had to run to the bathroom, got in there and doing the deed, and somebody walked in and they said, "Kevin, what are you doing?" I was like, "What do you mean what I'm doing? I'm going to the bathroom." They said, "That's a sink." So apparently at fancier dealerships, you have a circular sink that's very low to the ground that you wash your hands in that has this little foot pedal that puts water out.
So
I
it
thought
wasn't a flusher.
No, it wasn't a flusher.
It was that day.
Apparently that's how you rinse in your hands.
Oh,
Yeah.
So okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
So
When you mentioned that, because the first
was
day
it.
I started working at the dealership, and this is 20 some odd years ago, I walked in the bathroom and I'm like, that's the damnedest urinal I've ever seen. Because if I'm picturing this correctly, if there's 4 guys in here, they're all staring at each other. I mean, it's
Yeah,
uncomfortable
you guys
enough.
think we're chummy right now? Imagine.
well, this
being
is like a
5
half
dudes.
circle.
Yeah.
So
When, you got to figure it's uncomfortable enough when you're staring at a wall going, hey, no, don't look over here, don't look over here.
it's the buddy rule. You
I
never look
understand.
down.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
I did
bathroom.
that.
Fortunately for me, I opted to avoid that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times did you do that before someone said anything?
12.
It was. I mean, it was under 10, but it was more than once.
Wow.
But nobody
When
had came
someone
in.
said something, were you like, that makes a lot more sense than this being a weird urinal?
I thought it was weird, but once he told me, it kind of made sense.
Oh my goodness.
Man.
Okay, so it may not be the. Hopefully, that's the dumbest thing you ever did.
That'll be for another show, different day.
Give him more of this beer, and he might loosen up on it.
Yeah.
It's funny. Techs do a lot of dumb things, and this story that I remember it so vividly. And I had 2 new guys at one point, and I was training them both, and they both, I guess, worked out. But when you work in a shop, you get cars towed in all the time. Sometimes you can get them started in the parking lot. Other times you got to push them in. So I think this guy had pushed the car to the other side of the shop, and then needed to push it back into his bay. So when you push, usually you can't push and drive at the same time. So we had one guy pushing the car and one guy driving the car. Well, the guy pushing the car was the one that was working on the car. So he's pushing it into his stall. And the guy driving the car is my other trainee. And so, shops are like a kind of a frat house, and guys razz each other all the
It's a
time.
lot like a fraternity.
It really is.
Yeah.
So, the whole shop's like, come on, push, because nobody really wanted to help him push the car.
Gotta get over
Right.
the lift.
Yeah, push. The lifts were in ground, so you got to drive over a little hump. So everybody's, push.
Don't stop your momentum.
Right, just go. And so, the car goes over the lift, and the car keeps going, and everybody kind of gets quiet, because now you expect the guy driving to hit the
Stop.
brake, pull the parking brake, and stop the car.
Right.
So there's a point where the car sort of gets past where you really know it's comfortable. Shop falls silent.
Push turns to stop.
He's still pushing.
Whoa!
The guy driving doesn't push the brake, but pushes the clutch.
Oh no.
Bam! Right into his toolbox. So the guy pushing the car pushed a car
Into his
own toolbox. And, it did minor damage to the car. I think it messed the grill up, and we replaced the grill. Obviously, we're not going to, have that as an issue. We told the customer it wasn't a problem for that. But talk about pushing
Oh my
a
God.
car into your brand new Snap-on toolbox.
And having a story to tell for
And thankfully,
Forever.
I was there to see it. I will tell you, it's probably one of the only times I've ever actually sat down on the floor in the shop with just like this because I couldn't believe what I had just seen someone push a car into their own toolbox.
The funny thing is that when you're that guy, and you're like, oh crap, man, I just damn it, because guys love their toolboxes.
Sure.
I don't know if you guys know that or not.
A little bit.
But
They're
yeah.
expensive. You
Very
pay
expensive.
enough weeks of payment to know.
Right, but when you damage your own toolbox and you look around and you go, oh man, and everybody that's over here is
Yep.
on the floor rolling because they're laughing at you. You're gonna hear about that again.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear about that many times.
Yep. Yeah. So technicians do a lot of dumb things, and one.
It's not always
There
a
was-
technician though.
There's
That's
a good
true.
lesson learned there, though. A, Snap-on toolboxes were very durable.
Yes,
Because it stopped the car from going through the wall.
that's true.
And B, the clutch doesn't stop the car.
That's right.
Yeah, and
But-
don't be the one pushing the car.
That's
Always
right.
be the one driving in
You'll
your
stop.
stop.
Push all the pedals. If it's not running, go ahead and push them all. You can't hurt the
three.
car. But it's not always a technician that does
That's true.
something silly. I was working in a Pontiac dealership one time, and this lady pulls in, and late 20s to mid 30s somewhere. And
The lady or you?
The lady.
Okay. I didn't know they had cars when you were in your mid 20s, 30s.
Okay, we'll be
Model
right back after these messages. Okay. So anyway, yeah,
I want
we cranked it in.
to crack over like they were experiencing technical difficulties sign right there.
Right.
I was one. at
So
the time.
we pull. Still are. So anyway, this car pulls in the shop, and this lady gets out, and she's a little bit huffy. I mean, a little bit of an attitude. And she's
She
like,
had that "let me speak to your manager" haircut.
yeah, and it was. She goes, I just bought this car. I spent insert dollar amount here. I shouldn't have a problem with this thing, and this thing's got a noise. So we did the politically correct thing. It's like, ma'am, I'm sorry. I know you bought a car. It shouldn't be doing this, and we'll get somebody to look at it right away. So it's hey, John, whatever. Could you come take a look at this car real quick? It's kind of the lead tech in the shop. And so he walks over to the car. He goes, what's going on with it? She goes, it's buzzing in the back. And we're all thinking, man, the fuel pump must be making noise, or some vent is making noise, or whatever. So he gets in the car, and it's running, and he can hear it. And then he's like, oh, wow, what a noise. It should be pretty easy to find. So he cuts the car off, and it's still. And he's like, fuel pump's supposed to shut off. So he goes, opens the hood. No, the noise isn't up here. It's in the back. So he goes open the trunk, and it gets louder. And he grabs a gym bag. I think I found your noise.
I think you guys will have to fill in the rest of the story there for us to be able to keep this moderately
We're
G-rated.
just evidently she likes to brush her. She's a big on dental hygiene.
Okay.
So her electric toothbrush was going off in the trunk, and she thought it was a noise in the car.
Big toothbrush.
I would like
Yeah.
to know. I want to see like what the look on her face was when
It
you told her.
was
horrified.
Snatched the bag in the trunk, slammed the trunk, burned rubber out
Tire
of the shop.
squeal, yeah.
Nothing else was said.
She didn't say thank you.
She didn't.
Oh,
Didn't
wow.
send a note. Never called back.
I tell you.
I don't think we ever heard from her again.
So it's like a case of mistaken
But I can tell you
identity,
this: we've told the story many, many
Yeah,
times.
there's a lot of people that. Well, it's now on YouTube, so there's a lot of people that are going to hear
This
the
was
story.
20 years ago, so
Hopefully, she doesn't watch this show.
I hope
Or
she does.
And then has to explain to her husband that was her.
yeah. Can you believe that happened to you? Can you believe that?
when she was talking to her husband, but she was actually talking to her grandkids. If Rusty experienced it. As an advisor, I had to be about -20 at that
Negative
point in
20,
time.
okay.
Yeah, all the good stuff happened before you were around.
That's
Yeah.
true. It was downhill once you were born.
That's right. I can tell you that for sure.
It's hard to replicate my experiences.
Speaking of your experiences,
Oh,
I remember there was a story that you told me one time that you'll probably tell it better than I could ever tell it.
it was a good time. Apparently, there's lots of OSHA regulations with
Absolutely.
labeling your bottles.
There are OSHA regulations.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah.
Out the wazoo.
I remember
would say.
I've had that conversation many times in the shops that I run.
There's safety requirements, different things and processes you have to follow, and they're for reasons.
Really?
So one of the important things we do,
You know,
and then-
they keep telling us it's for your own safety.
yes, always for your own
Right.
safety.
I'm always the one
It's
like,
definitely safety
no,
related.
just let me go back to doing work.
Yeah, there's
Right.
first aid, bloodborne passengers, pathogens.
Bloodborne passengers.
But one thing is, in the automotive world, we work with, 25, 30 chemicals on a daily
Oh yeah,
basis.
tons of badness. I
Brake
think.
clean, oil, different types of
coolant.
fuel, coolant, lubricants. There's just detail, tire shine.
Right.
The smallest things can be harmful to us, to animals, to the environment. So one of the big things with OSHA that we do is we label bottles.
You don't want to spray brake fluid on a car thinking it's glass cleaner.
Yes,
Right.
tire shine on windows. That's been
Although
a
that makes
popular
for a
one.
hilarious joke.
Yeah, so one day I'm flying through, I'm working on a bunch of cars. We tested some fuel pumps that day, and in order to test a fuel pump, you have to make sure you have fuel pressure at the rail.
Right.
Well, we did so with a clear container. You put the fuel rail hose into the container, you cycle the key to activate the fuel pump.
Makes sense.
If fuel comes out, the fuel pump's working.
How often have you done that? How many times have you done
A
that?
million times. I mean, every
So
car
you're comfortable with it. You know what you're doing.
Absolutely. I'm 100%
I think-
sure I know
I
what
think
I'm doing.
allegedly, not absolutely.
Allegedly, I knew what I was doing.
Right.
So I tested a fuel pump on a car in a clear Gatorade bottle that I failed to follow policy, and
Was
I did
this
not
right
label.
after you peed in the urinal, or
A couple weeks after.
Be
we'll
glad
say.
these two stories didn't merge.
It's very good. Yeah. we
You know,
won't go there.
I've actually had this meeting before because you have to label what's in the bottle so that
People don't mistake it for something else.
That's right.
it
That's
is
right.
very important.
So fuel pump worked great.
Yeah.
It filled the bottle to approximately 3/4,
Yeah.
somewhere in there. So I got my bottle, set it on my toolbox, and I happened to set it next to my Gatorade. So
Oh, dear.
I'm guessing, I'm going to foreshadow a little here. I'm guessing you didn't label this as gasoline?
I did not.
Okay.
No.
Was the Gatorade label still on the bottle?
The Gatorade was on the bottle next to it.
Okay, so you peeled the label off. So
I did
you
at least peel the
okay,
label off,
okay.
but I forgot to label it.
I'm
so
trying to give you as much credit as I can for this.
yeah, I need it. Trust me.
Which isn't much, I got to
No,
tell you.
it's not.
Maybe 30, 45 minutes later, working on a different car, flying through, trying to be as efficient as I can possibly be. You get sweaty, you're tired, you need a drink.
You need to
Turn
mutilate your
around,
thirst, you would
Grab
say?
my Gatorade and just start chugging.
Oh, my God.
And shortly after chugging, obviously, I realized that the Gatorade was actually gasoline.
Wow.
Ouch.
Yes.
How'd that taste?
Premium? Was it? Can you taste the difference
I'm
between
pretty sure
regular
it was
and premium?
mid-grade. Yep, mid-grade.
Oh, my God.
I can tell you that day was horrible. I drank as much water as I possibly could
Right.
to dilute the Gatorade, gasoline. They both started with G,
Gasoline.
which was a thing.
Yeah.
Gatorade.
Well, you were all doped up on ethanol fumes, I
Yes.
assume, at that point.
I was, and the one thing is,
Well, the
it's
good
not
news is
even
if
just
they
the
had
first.
gasohol, could have got a buzz off of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one for the next couple days. The first day was trying to get it out of me.
So you actually, like, swallowed this.
Yes,
Ugh.
I was chugging because I was trying to get hydrated and get back to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah,
Drank
that's
as
what I was
much-
thinking.
Yeah,
I'm just picturing that, thinking,
it was rough. It was not nearly as tasty as other things.
Well, you know, it's funny. You've told me that story before, and I always like to share that story with our my dealership's OSHA coordinator or whoever it is.
She's a nice
and
lady.
Right.
she always gets a kick out of it. So thank you for that gift you've given to me
Yes.
to be able to share
You
that
know-
with others.
okay, trying to keep this G. I've heard of people trying to light certain bodily functions. Did you ever try that?
No, but I probably could have lit a bonfire at that point. The next 3 days, I burped gasoline.
No kidding.
It didn't matter how many times I brushed my teeth, the amount of food or water that I took in. If I had any sort of burp at all, it was 8
Really?
9 octane.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is he didn't have a spark knock.
And I survived.
You survived.
Which
You
was
lived
good.
to tell the story. So
Yes.
I feel like that's probably not the only dumb thing you've done in the shop.
No. Oh, the shop? Oh, my goodness. I had again, actually, a lot of stuff happened at this one place.
1940.
Okay, I'm getting tired of that. As I'm sitting at the end of the shop, which means you can see everything that's happening.
This
in
is the
shop.
same shop as the
Same shop as
waterfall.
before.
Okay.
No. The waterfall was a different shop. This is the one with the Volvo
Volvo.
still
Oh,
in its
okay,
nose.
okay.
Okay. So let me give you a little more detail about the shop. I'm along this wall with four or five advisors. There are 2 drive-through lanes here, and then the shop goes off that way. So we're looking across this way. Well, you know, if you've ever been in a large shop, there's drains all over the place.
Yep. Generally
This-
a central one and
Right.
maybe outskirts depending
Right.
on how
This
the
particular one
elevation is.
had a nice little square in the center. And it was Honda on this side and Volvo on this side. And I was one of the Honda guys. So as I look at, the Honda lane is empty. The Volvo line had a car pull up all the way forward, so I could see the whole shop, and this car was over here out of the frame. But this Volvo service advisors were straight across the shop from us. Well, this gentleman was talking to the service advisor across. He had maybe a 3-year-old son who evidently had decided he needed to go to the bathroom rapidly. And he didn't...
Was his name Kevin by chance?
Makes me feel a little better. I'm not the only one at this point.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you're on par with a 3-year-old. Actually, it could have been him. Because it was about that time. So anyway, I'm on the phone, finish up doing paperwork, and I look over, and there's this kid, and he didn't just... His back is to me. So he's not just peeing in the drain, but when he unbuttoned his pants, he dropped them to his ankles. So he is standing there.
Just bare butt.
Peeing in the drain. Dad! Look! Dad turns around, and the blood just rushes out of his face. No, no, no.
You're like, it's not probably the grossest thing that's been down that drain.
I'm sure it's not. But it was hilarious. It was funny. That was a cute one, though.
Yeah, well,
I looked up and
you know.
watched his little 3-year-old butt.
It's better cute than the creepy one of me in the sink. I guess I'd rather pee in the drain.
Yeah, but we'd
Oh,
rather
my
not.
goodness.
I don't think any of us would rather see,
No,
It happens.
I prefer not to. Yeah.
see or think about.
So I was going to say, yeah, I'd rather it be a 3-year-old, but then that's got its own set
Yeah,
of problems with it. So
I think everybody knew where you were going with that one.
right.
So we had a similar experience to drains having issues.
Yeah.
Not necessarily peeing in them, but they started peeing out of them.
That's bad.
Yeah. Dealership I worked at was parallel to a creek. And turns out if it rains more than X amount of rain per hour, that creek will flood.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to the creek flooding, being that the shop was recessed, you actually drove down a ramp into the shop, so it was below the level of the water.
I hope the architect that designed that got fired and punched repeatedly.
He was a very special man. He had to be.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about being close to a floodplain,
Or
you literally could throw a rock to the plane.
in the flood.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, like we were there.
Yeah.
So anytime we had threat of torrential downpours, hurricanes in North Carolina, which we know we get sometimes, any sort of snow melting extremely fast, we had to prepare ourselves in the shop. And we had a line on the shop, about 8.5 feet up the wall, that told us where the water would get to if things got crazy.
What?
So as a technician, when the end of August, early September came and hurricane season came around, we had to prepare for any type of hurricane. If we had a threat, business immediately stopped. Toolboxes, we actually put on the lifts. We put the cars on and raised them up in
Talk
the air.
about loving your toolbox.
Yeah. No.
Oh yeah, got to keep
Yeah.
it safe.
Take care of my car. Screw your car. I'm getting my toolbox out.
State inspection machine, any type of file, paperwork had to be immediately be moved to higher ground. So the one time that I experienced, I think it was may have been Floyd or Dennis, one of those in the late 90s, early 2000s. We had to do that, and literally the water was above where we could see in the shop.
Oh my goodness.
So if we were standing there, it would have been over our
It's
heads.
like Fran and Floyd. Fran had a really bad. Fran
Yeah.
was the wind around here, I think.
Yep, wind, lots of water.
I'm trying to imagine how pissed I would be having to roll my toolbox to the lift and go and raise it up.
Hoping that it's okay.
Yeah.
It was
hoping I
great.
don't see it float down the dang.
We kept
The
an
dang
eye
shop.
online because you could actually see where the creek would flood to, and there was hourly updates on how the creek flooded. But
You're like, no, we're seeing it right here, right now.
It's
worse
happening.
than that.
Well, that was, and I'm familiar with the shop, so I knew those guys. The dealership would move the cars that they wanted to save to higher ground, and the cars they didn't want to save.
I'm not going to lie.
they sold them to the creek.
There has been a few
Yeah.
cars that I've had in my career where I would have been more than happy to donate them to the pond or creek fund.
Right. Well, what a
And,
horrible design, though. I mean, as the water flowed down that creek, it would actually, when it got to a certain level, it would hit that drainage pipe. The drain came. That had, to be sure, OSHA didn't know about this, or the EPA didn't know about it. But that shop had a straight line from the drain to the creek. So as the water
that's not
flowed,
okay.
right, it would hit that, and the pressure of the flowing water in the creek would push it back up into the shop.
Ugh. I can't
Good
even,
times.
like, I would be so angry.
Oh, wow.
I would probably not work there very long.
Yeah, they didn't keep files for very long either.
We're on a seasonal rotation of your files.
Can I see my order, repair order? Yeah, it's kind of, okay, there you go. That's all
here's-
that's left of it.
A ball of paper. Wow. How many times did you say you had to do that?
Well, the worst one was one of the hurricanes that came in and flooded the shop, and then it went out to sea, and we got everything back to normal, and then it came back and flooded again. So it was like a slap in the face. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you putting all this
Yeah.
hard work and effort into saving everything, and then we're just going to come
I'll
back.
be back in a
and
minute.
No, you're screwed. Wow.
Yep.
You know, shop stories are always funny. Well, not always funny. Sometimes they're either like ultra depressing or they make
can
you
be.
really angry. But I like when they're funny, and I like when someone sort of gets their pride knocked down a little bit. So I remember very early in my career, like week 1, 2, 3, the dealership I worked at hired someone immediately before me. Literally, I think the week before I started, he got this job. So here's me, the greenest possible technician you could ever be, and this other guy who was a Volkswagen Master Tech at the time. And at that time, that was like a prestigious award. There were only, what, 25, 26, 27 or so, maybe 30, call it Master Certified Techs, according to him anyway. So in the shop, everybody
said
called
that.
him like one of 27 or whatever, because he was one of the 27 Master Techs. Well,
But that came from, what was the popular TV show back then? Well, it was a Star Trek. And then the board.
oh, that's right. It's one of 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this guy, man, he was the best technician you could ever imagine. He would be more than happy to tell you if you ever asked him.
Just ask him.
Yeah, even if you didn't ask him, he would tell you.
You have a pretty big hat.
All hat,
Extra
all
large.
hat,
Yeah.
no cattle.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah, so I remember one time he spent days diagnosing a Passat, days diagnosing this. It was like a misfire issue, and this guy went round and round and round, and I think one day he was off. He might have been at training or something, and then one of the other guys was like, oh, it's got bad gas. Like, he smelled the gas. He's like, this gas doesn't smell right. It's bad gas. And put fresh fuel in it. Car was good to go. Well, a few years after I worked with him,
But what did he say was wrong with the car?
Oh, he probably said it needed an engine or something, knowing him, or muffler bearings or something. Who knows?
Beware the Master Tech.
Yeah, seriously, they're all crooks. Wait,
Probably had better octane in me at that point.
yeah. You could have just spit in it and it would have ran better. But
Peed.
or peed in it. Yeah,
similar
yeah.
to a
Where
scene.
were you at the time? I needed your help.
Must have been somewhere else.
So years later, he left the
He's
dealership.
rowing his toolbox.
So this guy really wasn't cut out to do this kind of stuff at the dealership level. So he leaves, and when you leave a dealership and you work somewhere local, you get a name for yourself, and we all are kind of in the same industry, so we hear stories about local things that happen.
It's a small world,
It is a very small world. So,
especially when stupid things happen.
which actually brings me to the point of this.
Figured you were headed
so I was headed there. So I hear this story about this master certified Volkswagen technician trying to take the parking brake cover or a shifter off of a Beetle. So, that's not a hard job, right? You're a master tech. You've worked on Volkswagens for years and years and years.
You know what you're doing.
You should be, it's not like you're breaking a Bentley window or anything. I mean, this is a very remedial job. So I hear...
Either or, they're both very similar too.
Very
whether
similar.
you're taking the parking brake or the shifter.
Well, the end result winds up being the same. So this
Yeah.
guy allegedly is trying to take either the parking brake cover or the shifter off of a Beetle, and he's pulling and he's pulling and he's pulling, and finally it lets go, and bam, head into the windshield. So not only is this guy, he has stroked his own ego up to the ceiling.
Right.
Now he breaks a window by just...
Did he knock himself out?
I think he did. I think that's what I heard. I've told you the story before.
Oh,
I think,
how far we fall.
I think
So
he...
his head was large enough to get knocked out and break the windshield at the same time.
That is
allegedly.
a big head. Well, allegedly, right? Because
Allegedly.
I wasn't there, so
Oh,
I
my
can't.
goodness.
I
Yeah.
can't.
The Borg must be so proud.
One of their own. I don't know if he was a Borg. Maybe he would have had some sort of head armor. Or wouldn't have went straight
Oh,
to the
that's hilarious.
glass. But well, guys, I think we should probably wrap it up there because I think we've had enough toilet humor and
Toilet humor.
picking on other technicians, making fun of Kevin a lot.
Moving forward may be dangerous to our health.
Very
I
well.
resemble that
Or
comment.
online
Very well
reputations.
there. Anyway, guys, This has been a whole lot of fun. This is
fun.
kind of what happens when the three of us get together. You just had the benefit of watching it, or the displeasure maybe of watching it.
It's up to you.
I'm not really sure where
We
that
had fun.
falls. We had a great time.
Trouble, fun,
Right.
it's all the same.
It's all in good spirits, I suppose.
Absolutely.
You know, I think we would really like to hear your guys' worst story from work or funny stuff. You know, everybody.
This could go on for weeks.
I know. Everybody's got like a bad or a hilarious story from their job, no matter what industry it is. I shot a whole video last week about, or a while back, I don't know if it was last week or not, about funny stories that I've seen.
Yeah.
And so I really had to stretch to like pull some of these in, and you know, luckily talking about it with other, you know, fellow automotive industry
that'll
people
do it.
really brings it out, and you're like, oh wait, I had one time where
That reminds me of
yeah.
That
So-
too, and you guys can make me feel better about peeing in a sink or drinking gasoline.
I don't think that's possible. You're gonna have to live with that one for
Yeah.
a long
There might
time.
be some good ones out there. You never know.
See what happened was.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
That is what happened.
Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. If you like the video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. We really appreciate that. It'll make these guys feel better about themselves.
Much
and
better.
I try to, you know, make that happen as best I can.
Right.
Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or on the blog. Check out benchracinggarage.com.
Hey, good job.
Thank you. And
Thanks for having me.
Kevin.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Kevin at Kevin.
Yeah.
Dot
Nothing.
P in the, P in the sink.
There's nothing there.
Sync.Kevin.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.